All right, guys, Ronin Man here. I want to talk today, and I got some guys here. We're going to talk about basically losing your soul, okay? Now, my theory is, and I haven't told the guys, nobody here knows what we're going to talk about, but is that basically abortion has caused women the ability to kill your own child has now been so available for so long. Is that my theory is, and I believe this, that modern women, one of the reasons why we're seeing such callous behavior from women these days is because murdering all these children all these years has caused them, their own children. Keep in mind, if I murder another person's child, it doesn't hurt your soul. It's a terrible thing, but it's not as bad as your own child, right? Your own child, like I think everybody would recognize that with children, is if you had to Cain and Abel your kids, it would be the worst thing ever, right? And my theory is I believe that I've watched people in different industries, like the military, okay, like in the cartels, like in the gangs, and when they kill enough people, they lose their soul. And at that point, they just don't give a shit anymore. And they're like, their eyes are different. And if you watch recent videos on abortion, there are women making videos now. She'll be crying. She'll say, "Oh, I'm pregnant. I don't know what I'm going to do." And then she starts laughing. She goes, "Ha ha." She goes, "No, I just went and sucked it out, had it chopped up, And like women are making videos like this now. It's a common thing. There's tons of them online. And the thing is this is very, very unnatural. Very, very unnatural. Because the thing about abortion is that the reason why they do it so antiseptically is because the babies cry when they're being killed. You can hear them crying. This is one of the secrets of abortion, especially later stage abortions. So the thing is that a lot of doctors don't want to do a job like that because they're sworn to protect life, right? Now, and the thing is my theory is that the killing of children through generations has really hardened women to where they don't care anymore. They become very, very cold. Men, on the other hand, have not gone through that unless they did some of the things that we're going to talk about today. And they might experience the same type of loss of soul.
What about the men that got the chicks pregnant and maybe had something to say about, like, what about the guys that like forced their girls to get abortions? Are they affected the same way? For sure. Okay. What's the relationship between the man and the woman there?
Theoretically, anybody who orders the execution of somebody else would undergo the same thing. But in today's legal environment, a man has no say on whether his child is killed. He has no say at all. You can't say anything.
No, I know legally, but
you have no say. So,
right, but you hear lots of stories about, like, my girlfriend wanted to have the baby, but I was like, no fucking way. Like, you better like have that abortion or it's over, baby.
Yeah.
And he kind of like pressures her into getting the
I think the danger with that one is, the bottom line is this. If I told you, let's say I pressured you to kill your father. I said, "Dave, I'm not going to be friends with you anymore. It's over. If you don't kill your father, it's fucking over." Right? Now, I might be a terrible person for saying that. But at the bottom line, you got to go in and do it. So
but the problem with that is that you're telling me to kill my father, but that's not a good example because...
Well, another human being.
Not just
But give me a better example.
Because I'm telling her to kill my baby. It's her baby and my baby.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you're right. It's another level of evil saying it, for sure.
So
yeah, for sure. But the thing is that guy would be 100% subject to what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But the thing is, in today's environment, one of the problems is guys don't have any rights. Guys have no say-so at all whether a child is killed at all. And so a lot of guys, they want to have children, but their child is killed. And they don't really have a right to mourn or anything. But anyway, that's another topic. But so yeah, no, killing, especially, and then I want to say for guys who haven't heard my other stuff, there's a difference. I don't think society understands this, but if I go to a bar and I meet a guy and he's, a bad guy, right? And then we go out back and then there's a fight and let's say that I punched him and he hit his head on the ground. He died. Okay. Now there's a difference between that and he started to fight. Then if I started to fight, there's a difference, right? If I come behind him with a bottle, he's sleeping and I just fucking hit him with the bottle or a stick or an iron bar. Now, of course, how a murder is committed is discussed in very subtle detail in every murder case because it matters, right? All the details matter, right? And also the victim situation matters. So, for example, if I went and killed a guy, well, let's say in prison. So a guy is a child rapist murderer and he's in prison. And then a guy beats him up and bludgeons him to death. Now, society basically lets that guy go because we recognize the guy is so bad and there's a flaw in our justice system which can't really take care of that guy. So society takes the easy way out and doesn't take responsibility for that, doesn't change the laws, doesn't have any balls. So they let basically, what's that called? What is that called? Group Street justice, yeah, take over, right? Because they can't stomach penalizing the guy properly, right? So we cheer on those guys, which is totally wrong. I think the penalties should be equal. Society should be happy with the penalties. And anybody who kills anybody in prison should get either death penalty or life. It's like murder is murder. Society should take care of their business, but they don't. So we rely on the outside people to do it for us sometimes in that case. But the key thing is that guy's a bad guy and everybody knows that. So that's part of the reason why we don't penalize the guy. Because one, he did us a favor, as a society, because we can't do it ourselves. We're too helpless to do our own business, right? So we're grateful that he did it, right? He's kind of a hero in a way to society, right? And he shouldn't be. He shouldn't be a hero. We shouldn't have people doing that. And by the way, they're all men. Everybody that we cheer on for killing is always a man. There's never a woman that we cheer on killing. It's always a man. So it's a gender thing for sure. But back to the thing about he's a bad guy. What is the worst sin? The worst sin is putting an innocent person in jail. Would be a death penalty to an innocent person. And that's why we have DNA tests now. And we're exonerating people from crimes even after they die. Because it's important to us. Because it's so fucking wrong, right? Well, what would be the most wrong thing? The most wrong thing is obviously to kill the most innocent of people. Because they haven't done anything wrong. They don't drink. They don't do drugs. They don't have a gun. They haven't committed crimes. They don't get in fights. They haven't injured anybody, damaged anybody. They haven't even lied about anybody or done anything wrong, right? So to murder somebody like that is different, right? So I think I think that all this, I'm not saying what we should do in society in this episode, because that's a totally different discussion. I'm just saying, what do we know for sure, right? We know that humans are being killed, right? And we know that women have been doing it now since like when was abortion? 60s. Yeah, 60s. So it's been about 60 years, right? And women have I've noticed, if you look at murder cases, crime, women are leading cartels, drug gangs in New York and LA, big time, right? There's a lot of now assassins that are women. There's a lot more crime by women. And it's a thing with the police, they're having to re-educate them because they let women go naturally. And then they're like, look, that might be the person. She might be the fucking kingpin. Don't let anybody out of the house. Just because she says she's got to go watch her kid, don't let her out of the house, right? Anybody who's in there, keep them in there, And they're having to educate because the police just assume the woman's innocent. It's true. It's a natural protection, right? And it's all good. I'm not saying we shouldn't have that. But people take advantage of things if you give people, human nature, right? So my theory, and I don't know what anybody else thinks about this, is that I've noticed women getting colder and colder, both with cheating, with everything. Like, women are cheating on their honeymoon. Like, there's women getting caught sending nude pics, gangbanging, being escorts on their honeymoon. Yeah. Yeah. No, this is happening. This is like all things that never happened before. Like, there is a coldness that is happening. And that's why men don't want to get married, because you just don't know if she's going to be like people used to be or not, right? Woman used to be the nurturer, because that's part of the role of the woman, is to be nurturing, right? The man was not to be nurturing, so you mainly just looked at his ability to provide, right? The woman, you needed somebody who wasn't going to kill your kids, right? You needed someone who would keep the kids alive and do everything they could to keep the kids alive and support them, help them to get a good education, get, protected against disease, good nutrition, right? All these things, right? Talk to them, help them to not be afraid, right? But, so my theory is that what's happening to women through the ease of access to killing children is that slowly but surely women are becoming like veterans of wars, or like we talked about, drug addicts who have basically lost their soul. So the topic is losing your soul. And it's not, it's like ways that people that you've seen that have like fucking lost their soul, in your opinion. Like, this is obviously a judgment call. But like,
right off the bat, I would say that and I want to hear what other people think, but the whole thing with abortion, like, I feel like...
No, but I wanted to do the drugs first.
No, like, but let me just say right off the bat, I think, like, in discussion of the soul, I think you're being generous in trying to say that you think women lost their soul because of access to abortion, but I would argue that they never had a soul to begin with. Only men have souls. Women don't have souls. That's what I think. Like, certain special ones might have a soul, but generally I think man is a creature with a soul. Women are just fucking reptiles. Pure and simple. No soul.
You mean because of evolution, where they had to survive?
Right. Yes.
Like,
right. That, I mean,
explain it for people
that sounds very critical.
No, but explain it so people can understand. Like, women listen to podcasts too, and they want to know, like, what's your opinion?
Women
why?
It's like instinct. I mean, they could be very nice, and very good, and I think some of them have souls, but I just think that, I think for a woman to survive, like,
emotionally,
like, for them, they're, just think about evolution, like, it's like
cold.
It's like the only way they can survive is like they have to, like, it's like it's almost like whatever invading army comes in, that's it. So how could you do that with a soul? Like, it's almost like it's all instinct. It's like whereas I think, like, that this whole thing about regret, remorse, I don't know. I just think men are a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, well, it makes sense, because if you look at even things like breakups, men sometimes never, like there's been a lot of studies now about how difficult it is for females to break up with people divorced, and then men to break up, and suicide rates afterwards, and things like that. Men are off the charts. Yeah. Women, cold as ice. If you look at the statistics, I don't have them with me, unfortunately. I wish I did, because I don't want to say something.
And I think I think there's going to be a lot of women cold as ice that they didn't all have abortions. Yeah. They're going to be full reptile. They're going to be full reptilian chicks that never had an abortion. They're reptiles anyway.
Well, I know that.
You're being too nice. You're being
no, but I think
being too generous.
But you got to explain it for the uninitiated. I know what you're saying, but it's important to go into detail on that one because that's a shock to a lot of people.
It is shocking
That
to hear. I think it's a little hyperbolic. But I will say, like, there were times when the Roman armies...
He doesn't think it's hyperbolic, just so you know. Right. He's not saying... The key thing, when you say something, you can't say a middle ground on this one. He's saying something. And I think this is like real red pill shit. And you're saying, no, I don't buy it. Yeah. I don't quite... I'm on the fucking...
No, I think people do
There's no
souls.
line here, Dave.
I do think people have souls, but I agree that women are a lot more survival based. And when you look back in history during wars, there were instances, let's say the Romans were attacking, I believe, the Germans, wherever they were, the Visigoths back then. And if you retreated, your women were going to kill you. If you came back from the battlefield, your women were going to kill you and they were going to go fuck the Romans. And that was like what was going to happen.
Well, that's what happened in Ukraine. In Ukraine, the guys who didn't fight, they're like, women are fully supporting them getting cornhole big time.
I just think, like, if you want to have a talk about, like, losing your soul.
And the women all left.
You know, I think, like, that's a whole other topic about women and their souls. But you want to have if you want to talk about the loss of soul, restrict the discussion to men. Because it's something, war, drugs, we can get our head around it. But if you're like trying to talk about men and women in the same conversation about loss of soul, I have an immediate problem with it because I'm like, I'd think like,
well, this is,
it's
the thing is, see, when I started my red pill journey was in 1991.
Oh, that's hardcore.
And Dawn, this is the way we talked all the time in the beginning. Oh yeah, right here. This is stuff that they don't even talk like now. Like you're talking like red pill stuff from 91. Like that was the way Don, my mentor, talked to me. Like straight up. He was always like, it's a reptile with a fucking mask on. Like don't worry about it too much. Like you're a man, like watch yourself, protect yourself because this is a cold being, right? And it's like, there's a lot of truth, I guess you could say there's a reason for it. How come they're seen as this loving person then? That's the question. Like, women are seen as the most loving. Like, men are supposed to be these cold, evil, violent creatures. That's what society thinks now. Well, I want Dave. I want you to answer first. Because, like, why do they have this...
Well, it's like, why is
why do they have this
beautiful flower attracts the bees? It's like reward. I mean, I'm just thinking like that, we get their love when we provide, and it's like, and they have instinctual love for their children. I just don't, you're asking like, what, why is there a pretty face?
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't work if there wasn't a pretty face. I mean,
yeah, the scam.
I mean, it wouldn't work, It's like, so, but I didn't even, so, I mean, I want to hear what other people think, but I just think like that if we're going to try to talk about loss of soul, that's an immediate, first you have to, like, you're trying to put, I think it's difficult to put men and women, maybe women have a soul, but they're so different, I think it's hard to put them, to have a discussion about loss of soul, to put men and women together is difficult.
No, I like it
because it's like, because I don't think you're trying, I think you're being generous. I still think you're being generous to saying like you're almost like saying like in the past women had more of a soul, but because of abortion.
Well, okay,
I'm calling bullshit on that.
No, but here's the thing.
They were always fucking.
No, but here's the thing. No, but here's one of my things is I present ideas to a general population, right? And so people can only learn things in a certain order sometimes. They have to learn like, oh, this, then that, then this. And they can kind of, eventually they get strong enough they can see more truth, right? And I think a lot of guys just can't really handle truth that much. So I do take a soft line sometimes in an attempt to get them to the state where they can see more, right? So, although I would say this, I think the killing of children is one of the worst things you can do. So I would say that whether there's a soul, or whatever that soul, the business aside, there is a coldness and a like a laughter at you for caring about anything that you get from modern women today. Okay. About love, about children, about family, about upbringing. There is a callousness to women today that didn't exist before. Now, one of the things we learned back in '91 was that it's all fake, right? But the thing is, being fake is good enough. That's what I learned. This is going to sound crazy, but like Japanese women are taught from the day they're born how to be feminine. And I'm serious. Like, that's why you can't go to Japan and become a Japanese girl. There's too much to learn. No women can attempt that. I've met a few girls that are Asian, Chinese. They have an Asian background. They got a lot of background. They can easier pick it up. Western women have a difficult time in Japan. Everything they do is kind of awkward when they try to act Japanese because it's so feminine to the core. Every movement of their face, of their mouth, their hands, their feet, the way they stand, the way they walk, the way they put on their clothes, the way they do their hair, the way they smile, the way they blink their eyes, everything is feminine. Like, they're trained. It's like a huge polishing school, Japan, for females, right?
Right.
And so I would, I was digging on Japanese girls, and I had a lot of Japanese friends, guys, that I'd be hanging out with. Like, you knew some of them. You remember Ju, the Japanese guy?
Yeah. His
name was actually Ju, J-U-U. It was a very unusual name. It was usually Jun, J-U-N. But Ju and there was a few other guys we used to hang out with, and they would tell me, they'd say, Japanese girls are the best at wrapping presents in the world. I'd say they're pretty, I'd say they're just better at wrapping things than other girls. They're more meticulous, more perfect to wrap that present and do the bow, which is their body and their clothes, right? And their behavior, right? And they're like, it's all fake. And I learned a lot from my Japanese friends because I realized when you watch a Japanese woman, the minute she gets married, has a kid, she cuts her hair off, starts talking.
It's like
in a lower voice.
It's like an alien spaceship came and took your nice, pretty girlfriend away and left behind some creature.
A Japanese girlfriend and a Japanese wife are completely different things.
Right.
But as long as you understand Japanese culture, it's fine. As long as you're part of the culture and you can go live there and have other girls, which is totally fine in a Japanese marriage, as long as she doesn't lose face. You do it the right way and you play along with the game, it's all fine. But if you marry one here who came from there and she goes into that, it's not fine because you don't have any other ways to. There's not the Japanese man way of making it okay, right? So it becomes false advertising to the end, right? But anyway, they would tell me that, and I said, I thought about it, and I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, when they would get really angry, they would start speaking in lower voice and everything, But I finally had to say to them, I said, you know what? Sometimes when you fake something long enough, it's part of your personality, and it's good enough for me. If the girl is very feminine with me and acts feminine with me, I am fine with it. Like, even long term. I know that she could break character, but at the same time, if she respects me, a Japanese girl, she'll keep in that character most of the time. Whereas if she doesn't respect you, fucking ice cold right away, fucking hair off, fucking you're just like this workhorse, Sodaigo me, big garbage getting taken out, it's like pretty harsh, right? So I think that although there was no soul, as long as they pretend like there's a soul enough, and you know what I mean, it's enough for me.
Right. They know how to look like they have a soul.
Exactly. As long as they act like that enough, play along enough, it's fine. But they're not playing along. Like, now, you got no soul, and you got people that are outwardly laughing about killing their own children.
Right. But
think about it.
Anyway, let's talk about men who kill women and children.
No. That's talked about. No. This is
right there.
No. Because
this is the focus on women and whether or not they have a soul or not. Or
no, not necessarily the soul, but the thing is, men have been. Whenever a man does anything that's negative. It's been dissected in a million ways. Women always get off.
Well, yeah. Well,
that's the reason why we talk about it. It's not that they're worse. It's that they've always gotten off. And like they've always gotten breaks. Like if you look at the statistics of driving infractions, men get more infractions. But if you talk to any police officer, if you have any friends in the force, ask them. And they'll say, well, I let girls go all the time if they flirt with me.
Of course.
But then what happens is they let them go. It's just one-on-one, right? The problem is guys all over the world do that for everything. Infractions, they let them go. But those are statistics that are kept. So at the end of the day, when you look at the statistics, men look terrible in the statistics. And children are being taught the men are terrible.
Well,
because they say, well, look, it's proven right here. And it's proven that women are better drivers. You can see the numbers right here. Then men have more tickets. Whereas accidents. I'll tell you a story right now. I was in Shimoda after you left. Yumi was driving my car, the BMW. She fucking, you don't know, you must have still been there. Yeah, she fucking put it in reverse, thought it was in drive, and she plowed into the Yakuza guy next door and smashed his car. Were you there that day? She fucking caved that vids that he had, that Honda vids, whatever it's called. It was new. She turned it into a fucking compressed accordion. And he came out and he's like, oh. And then he goes, don't worry. He's like, I got a garage that can take care of this. He never charged her a penny. And it must have been at least, it was at least $15,000 repair at least. And he took care of it. No problem. He never asked her for anything. I mean, he was a mafia guy. He had guys who could fix cars. He probably just got another car. Yeah. But anyway, if it was a man, he would have called the police for sure. Everybody calls the police. And then they come, there's a record, you got to pay, insurance goes up. Women, even things like that. Even a scary guy. He's not scary if it's a woman. So that's why we talk about women. It's not, and that's an important point actually. It's not that women are bad. It's that no one talks about it. Yeah. Well, that's why it's an interesting discussion.
One that I find,
and it brings out a lot of truth.
One that I find pretty interesting because you hear, men commit all these homicides, but I'm like, if you include abortions in those numbers, women have to have like triple or quadruple the amount that men have annually.
Yes.
But you say, abortion's not murder, but if you included that, it would be women. The amount of lives, I guess, if you say, okay, the amount of lives ended by women then is going to be disproportionately higher if you were to include abortion as killing things.
Yeah. Well, also, okay, let me leave this. I'll leave that part here. I'm going to say, as you go through your lives from now, just look at women around you and on TV and on the internet and think, is it possible that what Ronin was thinking is true? Like, just think about it as you go through your daily life. We don't have to hash it out now. Just think about it. Is it affecting people's empathy and concern for other people? Like, there was a nurturing role for women in the past. Women were at one time in the past loving, nurturing people. That was a whether it was a role or not. It was a part of society enough. It was happening. That's why the guys fell in love with the nurses and all that, right? World War II. It was happening, right? And has things changed because of this? But I think loss of soul is a good topic because it is related in some way, But maybe it's like Dave. I take what Dave said. I don't think
saying you can like.
I'm not saying it's zeros and zeros anymore, but I still think it's an interesting discussion. Loss of soul.
Yeah, and when you're talking about killing women and children, I'm thinking of there's been well documented cases of say when the Japanese went into Nanking.
Raping and pillaging.
And they, people were talking about these guys were evil.
Okay,
they really those types of there's a soldier, and then there's a guy with
baby.
They're killing so many fucking people for fun.
Yeah,
that it's their eyes just change.
Okay,
and they're just in the army of fucking Satan.
Okay,
that's a whole fucking thing that's well known about. That's a man thing.
Let me challenge.
He wasn't born like that.
Yeah, I know. He was from killing. He was from killing.
Like that.
Yeah, but okay,
that's a whole other.
But okay,
I mean, if that's what you're getting at.
No. But here's the thing. It's a very great example because, okay, so would you rather be killed or assaulted? Would you today, if you had a choice to be sexually assaulted today, okay, or murdered, would you choose which one?
Well, you never...
Today, you had that choice. Leave outside, one of the two is going to happen.
Will I get a reach around? I mean, do I get anything? Like, you know, what do you say sexual assault? Like, what are you talking about?
What are you going to choose? Right? You're going to choose definitely not murder because nobody wants to die.
Right.
Now, in that war, Japanese killed untold millions of Chinese men.
And women and children.
They killed women too, but the thing is, at the end, there was a huge imbalance of the sexes in China. They needed more men. Same in Germany, same in every country. Men always die in wars, right? After every war, there's a huge imbalance. And so it's because men get killed, right? So they were killing tons and tons of men, right? Now, they assaulted the women.
Dude, they were also taking babies and throwing them up in the air and catching them on their bayonets, okay?
There were people doing that. No, okay. I'm not defending what the Japanese did.
And I was saying that's like they were loss of soul.
No. Okay, so this one here, Rev is a military guy. Let me just say my theory, and I'll let Rev take over for this part. But the Japanese took off from Shanghai to Suzhou and up there, Nanjing, right? So they took off, and when they took off, they had limited ammunition, and the Japanese had no way to supply them. There was no way to. They didn't have the airplanes like we have. So when they left Shanghai, it was a long way to Nanjing. They didn't have any way to get refueled or anything. So when they got there, they were pretty low on ammunition. They could only took as much as they could take, right? Including gasoline and everything. So the Japanese, this is my belief, is that they took the only possible strategy they could take. And that is like in a bar fight, if you're getting attacked by 6 guys, what do? You attack one guy like a total crazy man, like a violent psycho, so that everybody stays away from you because you're so crazy. This is what people do in prison. They want to put on a show of crazy so that nobody gets near you because they know they're outnumbered and they don't have any backup, right? So the Japanese, when they went to Nanjing, they had very limited ammunition, no way to get supplies. They had lost communication with their superiors, so they had no military discipline. The military discipline was totally broken down in that group. And also they were seasoned veterans from terrible battles already, right? So when they got up there, I don't know why nobody talks about this, but it's pretty obvious to me. They did the only thing they could do is basically act. The best thing is like Japanese are crazy, you know, like we're crazy, bloodthirsty, don't try. Because there's billion Chinese. All they have to do is start walking towards them. And this is one of the reasons why Chinese are very embarrassed about this, because they know this now. They could have just walked in and just smothered them. They had very few bullets. There was very few people. There was no way to supply. But they scared them. And they stayed away. So I'm not saying...
Sort of like an extreme show of force.
Yeah. It's like,
yeah.
What else are you going to do? Like, now I understand that they did terrible things. And I understand that none of that is forgivable. I'm the last one to forgive hurting babies, you know, but... And definitely some people lost their mind. And they were taking meth. It was crazy. The Germans had invented meth in World War II. And the Japanese, it was crazy. They were losing their minds, the Japanese. And these were the guys who were the most hardcore. They were very hardened veterans, those guys. And they had lost it. Their soul was toast, you know. So no doubt about it. And they did terrible things, no doubt about it. And also, they knew about Unit 731, right? Unit 731 was in China, and it was a biological warfare. They were basically injecting guys brown eyes with blue ink, trying to turn them blue. because the Japanese wanted blue eyes.
Like weird medical testing people?
They were giving people, not weird, it was one of the worst atrocities in the history of mankind. They were giving them every kind of disease, like syphilis, and they were watching them die, and they were seeing what they could cut out and what they could take out and what would happen. It was the worst. Unit 731 was so bad they don't even make a movie about it, because nobody wants to watch that movie, because it was so evil. Now, those secrets from Unit 731 at the end of the war were given to the American pharmaceutical companies. And before you say, what a terrible thing to do, I say the research was done. They learned things that could never be learned again. How the body works. And I think, personally, it was good. It was used for good, to develop life-saving drugs. That's my take on it. I've looked into it. There was not another war where they used these things for, you know what I mean? It was like they were trying to understand drugs, like what actually happens if you don't treat this painful thing way. And they tested the most terrible things, right? But so those Japanese soldiers were also aware of what the Japanese were doing in China, Unit 731. So the evilness was very high too, So there was a sense of unrealness, I'm sure, with the Japanese soldier, And I've read a lot about the final Japanese soldiers, in the caves, Iwo Jima and stuff, and like what they wrote.
Right.
It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Like, it's very interesting what happened to the Japanese soldier, actually. Super interesting. But it's not for today. But where was I going with that? I lost my train of thought.
We were talking about I don't know.
Well, you were saying, like, were they basically bad? I'm saying, yes, they were. But the thing is, you got to look at it at the prism of war and the prism of what they had and what they did. I'm not saying it was good, but I'm saying, like, in war, you choose what you can do. You might not want to use a rock, but if you're out of bullets and your bayonet's gone and the guy's coming at you, you're going to try to get him with a rock, right? So the Japanese, they had that going on. They had crazy evil guys. They had Unit 731. They had total brainwashing about the emperor, belief that they were doing the right thing for God, Amamatsu. There was a lot of craziness.
And racism.
There was racism, totally. And there was also Japanese men's behavior with women in general, like the way the brothels got set up and stuff. Japanese had a lot of brothels at the time.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of open sexuality. And there was a lot of things that we didn't have for hundreds of years that the Japanese still had. So a lot of it was difficulty to understand. In some ways, a very advanced society. In other ways, it was like, what the fuck, MacArthur was blown away by all this stuff. Japan was a very unique place. Still is. One of the reasons why I love Japan is so much unique stuff. And they don't often give a shit about the way we do things, which is even more awesome, But I don't want to take the military. What Rev? What's your take so far, or whatever?
Well, of everything that you guys have talked about so far.
Make a little intro so guys know. Whatever you can say, if you want to.
Yeah. I'm Reverend 20 Piece. I've been listening to Ronin Man probably since 2017, so kind of not quite all the way to the beginning, but early in. And I've hosted the Ozark Summit, been to the Austin Summit.
That was
and
so
looking
fucking
forward
awesome.
to
Your house.
Oh yeah.
Dude.
Looking forward to another one. The last two that you guys have done, I wanted to go to the LA one and the next one in New York, but it's just the timing hasn't worked out. So some other time in the future, I'll be at a future summit. But as far as the discussion goes, though, I don't know, man. It's a lot to take in as far as the soul discussion with men and women, the differences. I don't know. I think that I'm not sure if I could agree with the statement that women don't have souls and men do, but I could definitely get on board with saying that our souls are different. And it was an old Chris Cantu video. It's gone now because his channel got deleted, but he had talked about how men are the real lovers, and that really resonated with me as far as like men and women, how they love differently, and the aspect of men, when, at least with me, every relationship I've ever been in with a woman, every time we've broken up, I've always been the one, usually, that's taken it really hard. Unless there's been a couple occasions, though, where I've dated women that I really didn't give a shit about, and when I broke up with them, they were fucking pissed. It was a weird dynamic, but but yeah. So there's that. I guess with the soul thing, you guys had talked about the abortion aspect of that. I do think that there is something to that, though, with the people who kill, and also like women who have a lot of abortions, taking a toll on them too. I will say, though, I got something. This is kind of like I don't know if it's maybe like a truth bomb, a truth pill, because that's one thing I love about this whole Ronin Man experience and experiment, if you want to call it that, is that there's a lot of truth in this. And one thing, just from the abortion perspective, that I don't even know if I've ever told anybody this before, but I may have a close friend, but I dated a girl once where we had about 2.5 year relationship, but she had an abortion while we were dating, and supposedly it was my kid. I don't know for sure, looking back, who knows, without an actual DNA test. But she got pregnant, I got her pregnant supposedly, and because of personal reasons, she wanted to get an abortion. I wasn't sure what to think about it at the time. I was on the fence. I was definitely more blue pill, liberal type guy back then. And so I, reluctantly went along with it. I took her there to the clinic, and this is back in St. Louis. And she got the abortion, but it kind of fucked with her and wrecked her for a while. Like she wasn't, the idea of it before she went in was all, I don't want to say she was happy, but she didn't seem like it bugged her that much. But after that happened, she definitely seemed kind of shook emotionally, and I wasn't real happy about it either. And it's, if it was my kid, it's kind of a weird deal looking back now. I could have I don't have any kids now, at least I know about, but that's, it's just weird looking back. I could have like a 12 or 13-year-old kid now, so. Mm. But those are just kind of my early thoughts on what we were talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did you like looking back? Like, do you remember how you did you feel like? What did you feel like? Did you feel like she would listen to you? Did you feel like it was? I mean, what did you feel like? This is my kid.
I did try to talk her out of it.
Yeah.
Because back then, actually, maybe it was selfish of me or not, but back then, I was in my, early 30s, and because this happened in 2009, and so I was really on the fence if I really wanted children or not. Eventually, a couple of years later, I decided that I for sure did not want children, so I had a vasectomy. But that's, I guess a separate discussion. But anyway, but I don't know. I didn't have strong feelings either way, but afterwards I did feel guilty, about helping her go through it. So if that makes any kind of sense.
How old were you?
At the time, I was 33. So,
right.
But the guilt part of it is contributing my small part or whatever to the death of an unborn child. So, it's not something I'm proud about at all, obviously. But I do think, maybe like me, whatever you want to call this, confessional or whatever, maybe me talking about this can help somebody else out in the future, but it's, who listens to this or whatever. It's just, I don't know, man, just an unfortunate thing in my life,
Yeah.
But I'm not the one who actually had the procedure performed, but just the role that I played.
Yeah, I had a girl, I may have talked about this, but I had a girl, and she knew I didn't want to get married, and then she got pregnant, didn't tell me, and then I didn't see her for like 5 weeks or something, and then she came back, we were dating again, and then, she said, I really need to get married. I said, we should find a guy who wants to get married, so she did, and then I met her later, and then she told me that, 10 years later, she told me that the reason why she left is she had an abortion. It was my kid. and I didn't know about
Wow.
it. And she was telling me, but it really always has bothered me. I wouldn't have approved that. Like, she thought,
Yeah.
if I have any guilt, it's because I didn't make it clear. But I didn't want girls to know that I would raise any kid that they got, because that's the truth. My secret thing was, any girl got pregnant from me, I was going to raise that kid, because I felt like kids deserve it. You know, I'm glad I wasn't aborted. You know, and I'm glad. You know, and that I'm alive. You know, I wouldn't be alive if I was aborted. So I'm very, very glad. So I see that so black and white, clear, right? But she did it, and it was very. I felt bad because she didn't ask me. The thing is, too, she was a lovely girl. Like, she was as far as a partner, for me, like, she was one of the better girls that I had, you know, for sure. She's very, you know, and she's a good mother now, you know, but you know, she did kill my kid, you know, without telling me. And it's like, she actually thought, I'm pretty sure, that she was being a good girl because she's not bothering me. She's taking care of business. She's coming back and boning me. And she knew what I wanted at the time. But she didn't know everything that I wanted. You know what I mean?
She shouldn't have told you. Maybe.
I know, because I'm glad I know, you know. I'm glad I know.
Right.
Because I want to know these things.
It makes you think about all the ones maybe you don't know about.
Yeah, well, it makes me think, like, should I tell girls? But the thing is, if you tell girls, hey, if you get pregnant, I'm going to raise the kid.
You're gonna get pregnant.
Then there's girls who would take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And totally take advantage of that, right?
Right.
And, you know, so that's the difficult line there, you know.
I know an older lady, she had I think she had either 1 or 2 abortions, I don't remember. And she said she told me she cries a lot at nights because she's older now, you know, in her I guess 50s. And she said, you know, she cries because she thinks of, you know, if she had other kids, she has one son. She thinks, you know, she realizes that she kills her kids and she cries herself to sleep a lot, she says. And it's like very taboo for a woman to admit that. You know, nowadays women aren't supposed to admit that it has any kind of emotional weight on them. It's supposed to be like taking a splinter out or was something, you know, like you do it and that's it. You never think about it again, and that's how society kind of looks at it. But it obviously has deep emotional, physiological repercussions.
You know what bothers me is I did some research. I was looking online, like, what do they call like a plant? Like, you plant a seed, right, and then it starts to sprout underground,
Germinating,
and then it comes up, right. And then when a dog gets pregnant, like, there's something in there, right? It gets bigger and bigger. Like, I was interested in the names they use to describe non-human, unborn things. And if you look online at non-human unborn things, they always call it a living thing. It's always a living thing. It's always, it's nobody's like, oh my God, it's not a plant. It's got leaves and it's coming up, but it hasn't breached the ground yet. They don't say that's not a fucking plant yet. But when it comes to humans, if you read online, it'll always say the same thing. And I think this is directly because of all the murder, is they're saying it's a bunch of cells, right? It's a bunch of cells. But they never call a dog in the fetus a bunch of cells. They never call a coconut tree a bunch of cells. They never call anything else a bunch of cells. So it's obvious that there is a serious, terrible, in my mind, agenda going on, because you know, like, either they all are or they're not. And also, a bunch of cells is such a terrible thing to say, because we are a bunch of cells now. Like, we're nothing else but a bunch of cells now. We're always a bunch of cells, because there's more of them. You know what I mean? So if there's a heart, there's little hands, there's a little head, eyes. It's like really dishonest the way they're describing. Like, if they would have always described every living thing from inception the certain same way, then I'd say, yeah, that's the way it is. But it's not the way it is.
Another thing is, like, if you explained any of this to a child instinctually knows, like, mommy's pregnant, there's another baby in there. You would never say to a little child, no, that's not a baby in there, that's a bunch of cells. You know, you would tell the little kid knows mommy has a baby in the belly, right? You're not going to say, oh, that's not a baby and we're going to vacuum it out or something, you know?
Well, the thing is, what this is, and this is like warfare, this is like totally, what do you do in warfare? You dehumanize the person you're going to kill. Because if you humanize the person, like he's got a job, he's not good at math, you know, he loves his brother, you know, and this and that, you know, he likes to play pool. The more you know about him, the less you want to shoot him, right? So in war, they just call him all Charlie, or they call him all whatever. There's always some derogatory name that they use, makes it easier to shoot them through the head, right? And so now we call the most innocent human a bunch of cells.
I mean,
it's the same thing.
It's like
it makes it easier to kill them.
It's an interesting topic, and it's, you know, I'll just share like my experience with like abortion and the soul. You know, just, you know, it's a difficult topic because I mean I think people are different too. It depends. It depends also where you're at in life. Like I remember when I was young. You know, I was selfish, you know, maybe a little less sensitive. I was a little bit like, I almost feel like you're growing up as a man. Like, I was sort of told to be, I almost felt like it was better to be a little bit ruthless too. Like, like win. And like, I mean, I was taught to take care of women too. Yes, there was that. But there was also like this element of like, whatever it means to be a soldier, like there's an element of that. Whatever, being a tough guy. So, but mix all that with like being young, selfish.
Well, you got to protect your family.
All this stuff. Anyway, I remember the first couple times, you know, because it was more than once, you know, like where girl got pregnant, and I remember I felt somewhat fortunate because almost every time they were like, I want the abortion, I was relieved. I mean, I didn't really fight or say anything. So I was maybe a little bit different from you. Like because in my mind, I was like, I'm 18. I actually don't want to have a baby with this woman. Like maybe, and that could be about my own selfishness, but I'm also adopted, right? So there's a little cognitive so I felt like this stuff.
Yeah, you were not aborted.
Right, so I was not aborted, you know. It's like, and I'm grateful for that.
Could have easily been.
And so easily could have been. So when there were times in my life like where my kids were getting aborted, I kind of felt like, man, I hope there is not a God keeping track of all this shit. You know? Yeah. In a way, like I was kind of like, I hope there isn't a God who's like. Yeah. I hope there isn't any cosmic justice in the end, because I felt bad.
That is an honest feeling,
you know, but it was starting to weigh on me, you know, and then like, because I was like a bit of, you know what I was like kind of a ruthless sort of. I'm better, you know, in my youth, not ruthless. I was just like,
you fucked a ton of chicks.
I just wanted to bang them all, you know, without any fucking consequences or responsibility, which is, you know. But anyway, it got to a point like where, you know, after it was like 3, 4, 5, 6, you know, like you know, abortion, and I'm looking at like a dead Brady Bunch, right? Okay, and I'm not feeling good. So I'm adopted and I'm responsible for a dead Brady Bunch. That now I'm starting to have a spiritual crisis. Okay, you know what I mean, and that's when I found out, like, because I wasn't really aware that I even had a soul until my soul got sick. Like, I don't know if some people are like that, or if they can, because I was always taught, like, to be atheist. I never had any religion, so I never even believed in the soul, you know, until, like, I started suffering from, I didn't know until later that I was suffering from soul sickness, you know, because I have one, and the way I was living and behaving, you know, and I just eventually had a moment, like, where, and it got worse, you know, and it got worse. Like, it wasn't just like that the girls were like saying like that they wanted to have the abortion. I remember being, you know, with a woman, and she wanted to have the kid, and I was like, please, no, God. I basically convinced her not to have the kid because I didn't want to have it wasn't that I didn't want to have kids, but I didn't want to have a kid with her, so I shouldn't have been with her in the first place. I was sort of using her, as this kind of insensitive and just like, you ever just like...
That's your genetic... That is our genetic design, is to spread our seed.
But
like,
just in the end, I got to a point, I don't know where it was, if it was like Double Dead Brady Bunch or somewhere, I don't know what it was, but it was like too many, and I felt like I had this moment in my life, like where, like a spiritual crisis that over a few different things. And I'm not religious at all. I've never been to church, right? Never. But for whatever reason, one day I picked up the Bible, and I just went and I opened it up, and I just picked out a page, and it went to like this one line. It was weird. It went to this one line in the book of James, like where James is like, do you want to know what the will of God is? I'll tell you, the will of God is that you should care for widows and orphans, right? And that was the one line that I got from it. And it all struck on me was like, I don't know about that, but I should probably get out of the business of making widows and orphans and dead babies and all that kind of stuff, like something like that. And from then on, I was like I will never participate in a and I was very nervous, like when I fell in love and when I finally had a woman I wanted to have a kid with, man, I was like, man, I wonder if I'm, like, is God gonna,
karma's coming around.
Is karma coming around, and I was like very nervous, but I just looked at it like, and I just told my wife, and I was just like, from now on, like, I got to a point like where I can't participate in anything like that, like, women and kids and death. But when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I did it and I suffered from it. Like I got soul sickness, and I just, but I turned it, at some point I had this like moment of clarity on it, and I was like, I didn't really know how to like I'm not saying like you get white as snow, but it's something like, I think if you get some awareness, all of a sudden, like I knew I had a soul and I had to take care of my soul, and that sort of meant like not just ruthlessly using women and like forcing them not to have my kid.
I think there's a couple.
But it took a while to get there, like because I was pretty, and now
stuff, man.
And now I'm a big softie.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Iceberg Slim at the end of his career, he was a big softie, Yeah, a lot of people, the famous pimp, right? So,
right.
I think a lot of things you said are interesting. Like, yeah, you can. It's kind of an old idea in religion, is that you can turn around and be reborn, right? So
there's like the I think Jesus gets a little bit of a bad rap. Like I don't really think of myself as Christian, really, but there's like. He's sort of like the friend of the, like I kind of like, like I like that story of like Paul from Damascus, where he's like killing Christians, right? He's like the worst of the worst, and he runs into Jesus, and like he's forgiven, and Jesus just like, look, it's cool, just stop killing fucking people and join me, and it's all good. Like we're the ones that condemn killers, and like we don't forgive ourselves, we don't forgive other people, but. His whole basic message was like, look, sin no, I'm not condemning you. I'm just saying, stop the bullshit, stop it.
Yeah.
And you're forgiven. Just don't do it again.
Yeah.
And you can have a new life, which is a pretty positive message for like.
It was also a very unique message.
It's a positive message for like somebody who suffers from being like which I think if you're a man and you suffer from extreme soul sickness, from living that life of killing or whatever it might be, like you have like a lot on your soul.
Stealing or any
other
vices.
And like, and some people have gotten that message before and it helped them,
I like, the idea, it's really a Christian idea that you can be forgiven and you can change. I love it that, it's a Western idea, right. Western society.
I think we're so exposed to it in the West that we kind of get numb to it.
Well, no, but I think the problem is that, you know, like, having lived most of my life outside America, more outside than inside, I think Americans take advantage of that. There's a lot of there's so many fakers here. There's most people that made a change in their life are full of shit. I don't believe them. I don't believe, like, most people here, they'll make a podcast, they'll say, I changed. And they'll even say, like, I decided today that I changed. Like, okay, if you did it 20 years ago, and there's a fucking track record, okay, fine. But you're just going to tell me today that you changed? Fucking, you're crazy. You've done this your whole life, and now you're telling me? There is a 1 in a million chance that's true, but you better prove it to me in the next 20 years. You know?
Sure.
And shut the fuck up until then.
Yeah, sure.
You know? Yeah, I'm so tired of Americans, like, they think that's just them saying it. It's done.
Right.
You know, okay, yeah, you can do it. Jesus is right. But there's a lot of goddamn labor and changes you got to make after that.
Yes.
You know? And then
You got to back it up. Back it up and prove it.
Well, it's got to be goddamn real. Like, if anything's got to be real, a change for your soul has got to be fucking real.
Right.
Or it's total bullshit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's even worse
because
because
it's
it's
not like
deception.
just changing your diet or exercise thing.
Yeah, it's deception on the level is like, what is real, you know?
But you can go through. But I think men can go through their life and have soul sickness or feel like they're soul sickness or feeling a loss of soul from a lot of stuff, like, you know, different kinds of things, you know. And it's almost, you know, some people. It's weird. Some people just lose their, maybe, like, they go too far, or they never come back, or they embrace. Like, some people just turn evil and stay evil.
I think there's something.
You know, like, or some people are evil, or they're, you know, like, somebody could look at somebody and be like, wow, that guy's kind of evil, but then later he changes and he's not. You know, it's like, you know, I don't know.
I don't get the idea you're saying.
Well, like, for example, like, when I was, like, telling that girl to get an abortion.
Yeah.
Arguably, she's like she's crying, saying, like, no, please, you know, right? She probably still thinks that I'm evil, and you know what I mean, like, the way I was behaving.
You are evil to her,
right? So
that won't change.
But what I'm trying to say is that some people, like, become evil, stay evil, and some people seem like they were evil and then later they're not.
But I think the important thing here is, just the interesting thing on this whole change thing, is the people that you really fucked over. I think in the forgiveness in Western society, the part that's lost is that real wrong things were done. And it's like, I'm a new person, I'm changed. It's like, no, that thing had permanent consequences.
Right.
And so, to her, you have to forgive her for thinking you're evil, because
of course.
in her
yeah,
but I mean, like, actually actively say, you know what, she should hate me,
right?
Because,
of course,
especially if she doesn't have a kid,
I don't
now,
blame,
right?
Yeah,
you know, that kind of thing,
right?
But at the same time, is two new people, you know, I've seen you change, you know, I've known you a long time, and I've seen the new to you, and it's pretty impressive, you know. So it's not just talk with you, you know. I've seen you change. You know, but I want to say one thing in defense of guys and girls. So, okay, women don't have a soul. Women have learned because of evolution. They just have to turn on a guy who their husband gets killed by a guy, and they got to fuck this new guy. You know, that's happened in history millions of years, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's animals evolving into humans or humans, this idea has already happened, right? And so women have adapted to be able to do that. So that is big deal, right? Guys, it's inbred in them. They can't, it's part of their DNA. Men are like, you could look at it like flowers, right? They let's say, things go in the wind. Okay, seedlings, things go in the wind, and they get blown around, and then they become other plants. Maybe that plant won't land in the right place. It'll be bad soil, it'll cause a lot of trouble. But men are the ones who inject the seed. We're the ones who kind of are supposed to go out to the flowers, basically, and pollinate. We're supposed to go around, right? And like the trees, like or the certain plants, they let things go in the wind, and then they just spread, right? We are the ones who cause that to happen. That's where our job is to go fuck a lot of women, spread our seed out, so that all the babies don't die at the same time. So if there's a flood, one woman's got a baby on a mountain, another baby's down in the valley,
right,
in all these different places, so that no matter what disasters happen, the DNA is protected and lives on to the next generation. So we're spreading our seed. So women, if they don't have a soul because of evolution is basically beating it out of them, we could say, or it wasn't necessary, so it didn't evolve. They're just kind of doing what they're programmed to do. Part of Red Pill is just understanding the real truth about the world, right? And then men are programmed and have to, by definition, spread seed in order for the population not to decline, which right now it's declining. So the reason why abortion is being discussed now instead of 20 years ago is because society is realizing China, Japan, the US, Switzerland, the UK, all these countries are facing huge population declines now. So we're questioning again this killing of babies because we're like, and also the spreading of seed, like this will happen next, maybe in the next generation. The idea of the terrible guy going out and fucking all the women. At some point, that's going to be revered more and appreciated. Because that was what got the seed out there. That's what got humans good, strong genes. That's why we're not monkeys. Is because we evolved, our brains evolved, and we evolved. That's why, man, we mastered the globe. Is because we were smarter, stronger. We got the goods.
Right.
That's why we rule the world. It's because of these forces.
I want to say for myself, I think at heart I was always a little bit conservative, but I needed to have the experience, I guess, with a lot of women to kind of get the fear of God in me in some way, because now I'm very prudish in that I do not want to sleep with a woman pretty much unless it's someone I'm okay having a kid with. Because there are so many women that I've been with, and I'm like, any number of them, like 99% of them, I would not want those kids. And I don't want to be in that position to have to raise, I want to have kids that I want everything to be a good, I like their mother, I like the kid, where a lot of these women would, nightmarish. Like a lot of these, blue hair women in Manhattan, oh my God, living hell to have those women's kids. But I've been, so now pretty much I'm pretty much like a prude now, because I'm like, unless I'm okay, because most of the time I wear condoms, right? 99% of the time I wear a condom. I'm 33.
See, you're past your 20s.
Yeah, in my 20s I did all that, but now that I'm older, I'm like,
yeah, but see, the thing is, you're overestimating your mind, underestimating your body. You've shifted. Like my whole just plowing through the women phase ended at 30.
Yeah.
I still had girls hanging around. They'd call me and things would happen, but I see a woman and I need to smell her pussy and fuck her, pound her hips into the fucking mattress phase ended at 30. And I was like, all of a sudden, I want to make money. I want to succeed. I want to do other things in life. So you're undergoing something you don't quite understand yet, because I know for sure I didn't understand it. It takes time to understand, I went through a huge phase. I'm in a new phase, You're in a phase now, I'm guessing, where you're thinking more seriously about things. But see, the thing is, the nature just has to trick you. The reason why girls get pregnant, basically the hotter girls are, the more I don't pull out in time. So if I have a girl that's not very hot, I'm fucking her, because I never used condoms. And I would just pull out way early, do a few strokes on her face, done, right? Tits, whatever, her back. The hotter she was, the closer I came to the line. It's like I wanted to be driving it into her until the 100th of a second, where I had to squeeze those Kegel muscles, which I had practiced, to get it out of there and not do it, because I wanted to get it in there as far as I could, as deep as I could. And because she was the most attractive to have my child, physically. So a lot of the things are just physical. They're driven by their nature tricks us like fake boobs. The reason why girls love fake boobs is a lot of guys don't like fake boobs, right? Logically. But they trick you enough that you fuck her and stay in there a little bit longer than you would have. And that's why they're such a great invention for humanity, because they get you to stick in there. There's something in your lizard brain is these big balloons, this fucking chick, and then you just like stay in there a little longer, and then she gets pregnant, right? And so that's
not just biological shit.
Yeah, it's a phase in your life, and nature's tricks are very crude and simple, but they only have to trick you for hundredth of a second. That's what I realized. The difference between me getting a girl pregnant and not pregnant is like a very short period of time. Because I used to think I'm too smart for this. And then I saw a girl with fake tits and I'm like, for some reason, you'll always find your eyes looking at her. Like, you're like, I don't like those. But your eyes will follow her anyway. That's nature. So nature tricked you into being a cold, callous, as far as spreading your seeds in your 20s. But then after that, you suddenly come to your senses, and then different decades. And then you think, how could I do that? It wasn't really you doing it. You were programmed to do it. And women are programmed to be very cold. Very, very fucking cold. Ice cold.
So then what would
to make the smartest decision for their baby's future.
But now, so using that logic, what's the thing programming them? The best decision is to terminate their baby, right? What's the programming there?
Well, this is not an evolutionary change, because evolutionary change or take 40,000 years. I think this is more of a abnormally where things are just messed up, like the Japanese army. Things are messed up right now. That's why I'm bringing it to attention, because women listen to this podcast, and women know themselves and their soul and where they're at. They know. You think about it, they know. Women know, and we know ourselves only, right? So I want to put it out there. I'm not saying it is true. I'm saying, is it true? If there is a soul for women, for example, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean? Because men are always the ones that care about justice. Men are always the ones protecting women and children. Men are always the ones, you know what I mean? Like, we work ourselves to death to make sure our children get a better future. There's certain things men do that very giving on the outside. But of course, it's programmed by our genes wanting to survive and everything, right? I'm not saying men are great. I'm saying we are programmed to do the things we do. So you can't take too much credit for it, right? I don't know where I went with that, but.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting concept too. Like what you just said about if, I guess this is a separate debate, whether women have a soul or not, but if they do, then what is that like? So that's some good food for thought.
Yeah. I mean, I think like when I said like women don't have a soul, that almost sounds like a criticism, but I was almost thinking of it more like that they don't need it, or maybe say like, it's almost like, it's kind of like, because we all start off as women, right, in the womb. Like the woman or the female is the original template for the human being, right? And so it's not bad. It's like, but it's more like closer to like the natural animal or instinct, and it's like it's only after the X chromosome, and it's like if it's going to be a boy, then at some point, at some point, the difference between men and women is that at some point in the womb, I think there's two stages, like where there's a release of testosterone to create the human genitalia, and then there's a second release of testosterone to rewire the brain to make it a male. And I'm just arguing that's the introduction of the soul. It's almost like that we need it. Like it's like something that it's almost like, because in a way, like we're being like without the soul, then we'd all just be ruthless fucking killers. Because like we're being pro, like it's like taking something that's good, innately good, like something about the woman that hopefully is going to be innately good, you know, hopefully. And like it's you're turning something into something that's going to be a hunter or soldier, and it's the soul, you know, that's like that makes men, you know, like good and, you know, like care for, you know.
I mean, to turn it
without you know, when men lose their souls, it's like they're monsters, you know. But women, I'm saying, like, they never even had a soul, and it doesn't even really matter.
Yeah.
Well,
you know?
Yeah. Well, I guess when I originally heard you made that statement earlier, it was, again, I haven't met you in person, at least not yet, probably in the future at some point. But I was just thinking it was kind of just like a standard red pill like talking point, you know, because I haven't really thought a lot about that, but I am.
No, he doesn't watch red pill stuff.
Say again?
Yeah, Dave doesn't watch red pill
He's probably
stuff.
never seen a single.
He doesn't even know any of the terminology or anything.
He doesn't even know what the hell it is.
Okay.
He's just my friend from Japan. We had a lot of fun together. We fucked. Yeah, we had a great time.
I'm actually pretty liberal.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm a mix. I think I'm hard to, you know, I don't know.
It is hard to nail you down because, yeah. You've got a deep reservoir of stuff going on. So yeah. It's not knee-jerk stuff.
Yeah.
And just as like a little funny thing, funny observation as far as like the soul type of thing, because when you hear a guy say he's romantic, he means he likes to, you know, put out flower petals and light candles and draw a bath for his woman and play smooth music. When a woman says she's romantic, she just means she likes receiving all that stuff.
Yeah.
No. I had girls who would. I had some girls who they were funny. I think they were all pretty, actually. Yeah, all of them were pretty. Interesting. Yeah, I would leave them in my house, and I'd go to work or whatever. You know, I'd go somewhere, meeting or whatever. I'd come back. None of them were living in my house, but they would just be in my house. I'd fuck them in the morning or whatever, and go do something. I'd come back, and then they would, you know, have, you know, shaved their box, and they would have like turned down the lights. They'd be wearing super sexy underwear, and they'd have like, you know, rose petals everywhere, and like. Then I come home, and sometimes, like, it was always kind of blew me away because they were just like kittens, you know. And it was like I wasn't ready for it. I was just like out there in the world doing stuff. And I come home, and they, you know, whoa, fuck. And then I was just like, it's a certain kind of woman. They really like to do that for their man. They just want to be a sex kitten, you know. And it's quite interesting. Like, they do the flowers. They do it, everything. I would just come home, and then it would all be there. And it was like, it always meant like, maybe she was doing that to get me in the mood. Because then I would just blow the shit out of her, right? And fuck the shit out of her that night. Because I knew the spotlight was on me. Like, you had to give her a good fuck when there's like candles and flowers. It was going to be just some serious action going on. There's no way it was just going to be like no.
Yeah, but I don't think those women are advertising themselves as romantic.
I was going to suck it up and make sure things went down, right?
But I don't think, like, if a woman tells you...
Well, that's guilt, right? Because usually this might be like...
No, it wasn't,
you know,
no.
It's like,
no.
I got 10 minutes for this, and I got a pizza waiting for me.
No. I was always wanting to please women sexually type. But I enjoy pleasing, and I enjoy, because as I please them, it's more likely they'll want to please me.
Okay.
Yeah, and also, if I encourage, you know, shaving, nice underwear, and, you know, being ready for just a night of perfect, you know, romance, sex, and everything. If I encourage that, then there'll be more of that. If I, you know, what are you doing? I got tired. Then I know it's never going to happen again. So it's a good thing they're doing that. So I would always encourage it, just because I didn't want to squash it, you know, because that was no benefit for me in squashing it.
Right.
Yeah. And guys who squash things, girls don't like that. It's like a very obtuse thing to do. Usually I was pretty smooth and figure out the right kind of path on that. But it was always interesting to me. I thought, God, you work so hard to get a girl, and here's this fucking super hot girl, just such a fucking kitten, you know.
And then you blow it so hard.
You just blow her out, and everything's just awesome, and just like you just feel like fuck. Life can either be very good or very bad, you know. Sometimes it's ridiculously good, you know.
That's true.
Because she go out and buy food too. There always was food involved, because they know I want to fucking eat. So whatever, yeah. Oh yeah, there was always food.
That's
ready.
almost more important.
Yeah, they had food ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's more
For
important.
the recovery.
Yeah, it wasn't like just sex. It was food,
Right.
food, and sex, and lights, and music.
And liquor.
Yeah. No, I don't drink.
Oh.
Sometimes they would. Some of the
Okay.
girls that I just met would have a bottle of wine because they didn't know me that well. Sometimes, but usually they would know me well enough not to have.
As far as losing your soul, I mean, this could become a thing that we drag out because we could talk about as far as people losing their souls to a career or losing their soul in a marriage or
No, you can't lose your soul in that kind of stuff. No, I think the way I look at it, you only lose your soul killing, war,
drugs. Was
and
the
then
other
also
one.
drugs where you're robbing your grandmother for heroin. You know that I've helped a lot of addicts, and the ones that I think lost their soul, they did stuff like that.
Yeah, they're like irredeemable acts. Like there's no
Irredeemable.
way for you to redeem it within yourself.
They beat
kind
up
of,
their
you
grandmother
know?
for money after she stopped giving them money for drugs, and there was this like the grandmother died soon after.
Yeah.
You know, like things like that. Just terrible, terrible things. Or, you know, they would get somebody else addicted to heroin that didn't even know what heroin was.
Oh, okay.
So they would rob for
Yeah.
them.
That's
So,
bad.
so the girl would like find a guy that had money and then get him drunk, and then she would say, "Do you want to try something new?" And he's like, "Sure." Then she'd tie his arm up and give him some heroin. He wouldn't even know what it was. And then he'd be addicted to heroin soon after. You know, or he'd smoke it. He wouldn't know what it was. He literally didn't even know he was getting addicted. She knew she was going to get him addicted because he'd smoke it with his cigarette or whatever. And then he would be an addict and start spending his money.
Yeah.
And
Plus, she's a
mortgage his
woman and
house.
throwing some sex with it, and that's it. That
They
guy's
already
toast.
fucking, yeah.
That
She
guy's
would go
toast.
to a Starbucks in a business part of the town, and she
Yeah.
would get a guy.
Yeah. Guys with money.
Yeah. And she would totally destroy them. To completely destroy their lives. Where they end up in jail in China, having
Wow.
hepatitis C, lost everything, family,
And addicted to drugs.
addicted to heroin, no soul. And
That's bad.
that girl, she told me a bunch of stories because I was talking to her. And I said, "Hey, you know," I said the typical line about drugs, they're all the same. And she goes, "Look," she goes to me, she goes, "Look, I like you." We were talking in Chinese because she goes, "You're smart. You know, I appreciate you coming to help us at the hospital and everything." She said, "But I know they tell you that and all that." She said, "I got to tell you the truth. It is not true." She said, "Heroin is different. Heroin is soul destroying." She goes, "What you did?" She goes, I don't mean anything about it." She said she was very smart and cool, this chick. She goes, "I don't mean this in any way negative." She said, but babe, you didn't lose your soul. Yeah, you did a little coke, you did a little pot, you drank too much, but you never sold your soul." She goes, "I sold my soul many decades ago, and I've destroyed. I'm a black widow. Like,
Right.
I am darkness, you know, and just know the heroin's different." And I was really grateful to her because nobody taught me that. And that was like 20 years ago. And I've talked to a lot of people, and I think she's right. And I wish more people knew that.
Right.
Because there's something about...
I was just saying, I would agree with you just from my experience of dealing with people over the years with different addictions and drugs and alcohol, shit like that. The people with the heroin always seem to... Heroin and meth is a close second, but those two are just... they'll destroy people. Totally.
So lose your soul. That's the word we're using. It's like it causes
I think, especially with the heroin, I think why people lose their souls is that, like, the difference between alcohol, like, you know, like you can drink a lot, but you're going to wake up with guilt and remorse. The problem with heroin, it takes away the guilt and remorse, and that's where where you're just going through life like doing anything you want with no, like you could do anything, and the heroin takes away all the pain and it takes away the guilt and the remorse, so you won't even wake up with that, and then so now you're just going through life like that. So you could be, so that's where the loss of soul comes from.
That goes with my logic in the beginning. That goes exactly with my logic.
And any heroin addict can talk to you about that.
No, but that goes exactly with my logic in the beginning. Is that women now are joking about killing their children, right? Making a joke, making TikTok videos about it, and it's exactly what you just said. What did you just say? You don't have any guilt or remorse about the terrible things you're doing. No more guilt and remorse.
Right. And
it's one thing to kill, but it's another one not to have guilt and remorse.
Right. That's
what I'm talking about.
And a psychopath
it's being encouraged too.
And a psychopath is somebody that never had, like, they're missing something, so they never have the guilt or remorse, and then there's like the narcissism types, like where they don't have the guilt and remorse. They seem psycho in this, and now you can start to ask the question: does the psychopath, or does that narcissistic psychopath, do they have a soul? Do they ever have a soul?
No. Every book
right?
about narcissism,
because there's a relationship between guilt and remorse in the soul.
Yeah, you got to read a great book called Psychopath Free. Absolutely fantastic book. That's a really worthwhile book. I read a lot of books, but that's very readable. It's a page turner. You'll love it. Psychopath Free.
Psychopath Free.
Yeah,
okay.
And it's a gay guy wrote it. It's really fantastic. But
home run. Here we go.
Yeah, what was I going to say? Fuck, now I lost my train of thought.
Sorry.
Now that I recommend, no, because I
wrote it.
What's that?
Gay guy wrote Psychopath.
No, but before that, we were talking about.
Oh, I called it.
We were talking about the Mets just
the guilt and remorse part.
Yeah. With that, no remorse. The thing is that is the thing with psychopaths is that there isn't that remorse.
Not.
Yeah.
Right.
So like women now are being encouraged. I'm not saying that something should be done or what should be done. Maybe abortion needs to exist in certain circumstances. But I know what needs to be done for sure is that people have to have human feelings about these babies.
Mm-hmm.
That needs to come back. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, if you're going to kill them, okay, admit it, right? Have remorse. Have emotions.
Well, I mean...
Don't encourage people to lose those... That's when you described the soul. You said a lack of remorse. And what was the other word?
Guilt.
Guilt and remorse. Those things are important for humans. That's what makes the difference between having a soul and not. It's not about being perfect. It's like we have that guilt and remorse.
I think if you have guilt and remorse, you should first be grateful for having it. Because that, for me, that means you still haven't yet completely lost your soul. It's the people that have, like they've gone so far. It's like, like if you wake up day in and day out and you're like, I think like the people that do heroin, that there's a point in time like where they stop doing the heroin and they're waiting to see if their soul comes back or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. It's kind of hoping it does. It's like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I totally know what you mean. Yeah. No, that's fucking good shit, man. That is good shit.
Yeah.
I think
I like the way you tied that together.
Right. I think we could either end it here or we could do more. What do you guys think? I think that's fucking pretty good.
That's a pretty solid overall, I thought, discussion and concepts and tying everything together, in my opinion.
I feel it like when it's kind of done, it's kind of starting to connect. This one's hard to connect because there's a lot of stuff, right? But
oh yeah.
Well, let's ask Gabe. What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I mean, this could go on for a while, but I think it was a good spot. So.
Yeah, or if you guys ever want to come back with a part 2 on it too, let me know. As far as to get deeper into the women's soul discussion, or because I'd like to maybe do a separate discussion on psychopaths, if because that's just a subject that fascinates me. And do psychopaths have souls? Because I don't know, man. I question that myself on that one. So
no, that's what they say.
thoughts.
That's what I'm saying in that book. The psychopathy books will say that they don't have a soul.
Right.
They don't have remorse, and they don't have empathy for other people.
Yeah.
So when you don't have remorse, you don't have empathy. You just get what you can get.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that type of stuff's crazy to me.
And that's important to know, that women are not all psychopaths.
No.
But the thing is, this is what you were saying, they don't have a soul, because they do have some recorded empathy.
I might have been being a little bit harsh on them. I'm just sort of saying that we're different.
Yeah.
You know, I might have been, I was being a little bit. It's just that in discussion of the soul, I think I'm just more saying that for me it's more of a thing in men. It's just that men need it more. Some women are certainly soulful. I just feel like women are just more of. We should talk about it more later. I just kind of think like no, I don't know. I just still kind of feel like men have souls and women don't. Like here's a question.
Okay.
Say you do something bad, right?
Yeah.
You say I'm a man, and say I treat a woman improperly, and say it was 10 years ago, and now say a woman treats a man improperly, does something bad, and say it was 10 years ago. Who's going to be suffering from guilt and remorse from that in 10 years? It's the man. Okay? I'm just saying that there's a thing about, a normal guy is gonna feel the suffering of his bad deeds and the guilt and remorse. And I think women are a little bit I think that shit rolls off of them a lot easier. For whatever reason, they don't have the same, they don't suffer the same kind of soul sickness, the same kind of torture. It's not a criticism exactly. It sounds like it is, but it's more just that there's for me, there's just a difference between men and women. And if you're having an important discussion about the soul, I feel like you have to separate them. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's just difficult for me to lump them together.
That was really well put.
That's
I like
all.
how you put that.
That's all I'm saying.
Cool.
So I feel a little bit guilty saying now, because I have a soul. I feel a little bit guilty saying they don't I'm feeling a little guilty now saying they don't have a soul. And just for the record, I love and care for women and children. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just for the
Same
record. All right.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
I just got one addendum to add, though. Just kind of everything that we talked about was with what you just said was about how women, it kind of rolls off their back easier. I think it depends on what it is, because in general, I agree with your statement. But there was a woman I dated before I moved here to Arkansas, but we were just kind of friends with benefits deal. But anyway, she had one of her children, her daughter, had died of cancer at the age of 5. I don't remember what type of cancer it was, but it was that really broke her up, and she never got over that shit and was always talking about it, and just it was a real moment or experience in her life that was really hard for her. And so I think it kind of maybe just depends on what the situation is.
She didn't cause that.
Yeah.
She didn't cause that.
Yeah, suffering trauma is a whole other thing.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that there's.
Yeah, and I see what Ronan's saying too. I guess I'm kind of mixing the things up, because that was something that was out of her control.
Right.
No, but it's an important point.
Right.
That she was very damaged and hurt and sad
Right.
by the loss of a child. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But I wonder how many people feel that way about children that they aborted. I really do. They are taught that it's not a child. Everybody, just the dehumanizing of the infants,
Well, a lot of women too, having an abortion can be pretty traumatic for women. I mean,
it is.
there's women.
Certainly don't hear about it.
But
Well,
I think it is, you know, like I don't think they want them, and I think when they have them, you know, I think it can be pretty traumatic.
Well, that's what I said earlier with the lady that I knew. But then there's also an opposite. We have to question how many of these women are on like SSRIs and like mood altering medications.
No, because
and
in
birth
Japan they
control,
don't
stuff
take
like that.
Japanese girls don't take birth control. They don't.
But do
And
they
they-
get the abortions in Japan?
Yes,
Oh,
tons.
okay. Yeah.
And they don't take
They don't take
SSRIs.
care. Okay.
They're not even legal when I was
Okay,
living.
all right.
So
okay.
no, when Japanese women had the most abortions, I read.
But I think
I thought it was Russian women.
It was up there though.
Yeah.
Japanese. I don't know if it was number one, but it was high.
but obviously there's some
Because they don't take the pill. They didn't take the pill.
there's some contingent of women that find it empowering, but it's empowering to kill something that's smaller and weaker than you, I suppose. But in some way, it's saying like I'm in control of this.
I think now that we're having like population declines, I think it's the right time to question things. You know, maybe in the 60s it was maybe that was the right thing for society. But I think now we're seeing, you know, like smart guys, they're looking at the future and they're saying, we don't have enough kids.
Yeah.
Like we need more fucking children.
Just to say one thing in defense of the woman that chooses an abortion, you know, I'll just say one thing that, because I have some sympathy for them at times, like, because if you look at it statistically, I think I read about it recently, and that the women who are most likely to have an abortion already have a kid.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so sometimes they're choosing to have an abortion because they want to provide the kid they already have with better care. So there's that. Okay, so and they could be single mothers, you know, and they could be economic, you know, it could be that, you know, some ruthless guy just like boned them and is not around to raise the kid. So it could be like a poor chick who already has a kid, you know, and she could be making a decision about having an abortion to provide better care for the family she already has. So I'm just going to put that out there just as a little defense, you know.
Yeah, the truth is they get more, at least in America, they get more money if they have more kids. You know, they get more money, each kid they have. And, you know, and also almost all divorces are filed by women. So most single mothers, it's because they divorced their husband. They broke the family up. Women are homewreckers.
Yeah.
They're breaking up all the families. Men very rarely file for divorce. So the thing is that women are single mothers by choice. They have a lot of choices, but they're choosing to be a single mother. They have tons of choices. They can have an abortion. They can take the pill. They can make the guy wear a condom. You know, they can do tons of stuff. You know, they can give for adoption. Like do something nice for somebody else. You know, there's no more kids for adoption. People say, well, you're selfish having a kid because you just get an adoption. Go look on the adoption rules. You got to wait 20 years to get an adopted kid. There's no more, even in China. You can't get an adopted kid anymore. There's no kids, impossible. Everybody wants them now, but you can't get them. Yeah, it's a total myth. Total myth. There's no adoption anymore. And back in the 20s, 50s, 40s, yeah, there was a lot of kids. And they needed help.
Right.
But today it's the opposite. There's like no kids. You know, nobody's having kids. There's no kids for adoption. Everybody wants them. They're waiting. China won't let any foreigners take kids anymore. Thailand's tightening it up. Every country, you know, because they're having this decline now. You know, these countries, right? So it's, you know, a lot of the information is old that we know as true. It's not true. For today, it's not true. Like, we're not having a population explosion. There's no danger of being too many people. Like, the danger is actually the opposite right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I joke around that women getting abortions, pro-abortion, a lot of times is just pro letting poor guys come in you, pretty much, because, you know, women aren't in line. Women aren't in line getting Elon Musk's abortions. You know what I mean? If the guy has a lot of money, you're not getting the abortion. So it's just like
right.
Well, if they have Elon Musk take care of it, and then the guy's poor, then they will have the baby.
Yeah.
There's like 40%, 30% of babies are not
right.
the fathers. So yeah, no, the poor guy does have a lot of kids, more kids than most, but he doesn't raise them.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, as a guy someone took my kid, the guy who could be the guy who she wants his genes is a lot of guys. They actually want kids.
Yeah.
So like that's the thing. It's that there's a belief in society that guys don't want kids ever. You know, sometimes you don't want kids when you're younger, whatever. Right now, you know, especially to be a single father or, you know, do some kind of surrogate, I'd love to. Or if there was a sweet situation, I would do it.
Let me just add on to this since we're going in that direction, because I would like kids also, and a big reason why I'm not for abortion is I don't like the idea of a woman, as soon as she becomes pregnant, being able to hold my child hostage in her belly. She could be like, either take out the garbage or I'm killing your child. It's like, what the fuck? Any arbitrary thing for 9 months while the baby's in her stomach. It's like, oh, you forgot to put the toilet seat down. I'm killing your child. You know, and I know that's an extreme joke, but that's the point stands. Guys don't like the idea that their child could be killed arbitrarily within a 9-month window.
Of course. And also,
then be taken once.
If you lose your job, very likely she'll do it.
Yeah.
Straight up. So, yeah. That's a guy's situation. We have no power when it comes to that stuff. Here. Overseas, you have more power. In the sense that you can have a normal relationship. It's more likely you can have a normal relationship. Not like people, the word power. If somebody's murdering your children, it's right that you have power to stop that. You know what I mean? Like, power is not you. This is power being used for good. Protect somebody. And it's actually in our DNA to want to protect kids. Right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you want doctors to have the power to help people. You know? It's not like, oh, those doctors are so... we don't want them. Don't give them any medicine, no machines. Let them have any power. You know? It's like, that's their job. Do what you can't do. Help you when you can't help yourself. Right? You know? So anyway, there we go. Lots of ideas there. Yeah. All right,
yeah,
guys.
Good stuff.
Thanks everybody for your ideas and thoughts here.
It's a fun one.
Fist bumps all around. Fist bumps.
Yeah.
Fist bumps.
Right
We're fist bumping the phone right now.
I appreciate you inviting me on.
All right, have a good one.
All right. I'll talk to y'all later. Take care.
Later.